Hello everyone, this is Dean Pompilia, and in this demo we're going to be looking at some Google hacking techniques. This is just going to be an introduction to some of the things you can do. There's an entire universe of information out there about how to use Google specifically to assist in doing very targeted searches of certain kinds of information. Other search engines can work as well. For instance, you could use something like Start Page because it'll act as a proxy to Google. And that's actually a better choice in a lot of ways because it's an SSL search engine and it's not tracking your IP address. Anyway, so we'll start off by going to support.google.com. You could find other references for the search operators, but this is a good one. This is an official Google reference, at least. And so let's review some of these because they are important when you're using the engine and you want to do it efficiently. So the plus sign could be used to search Google+. The @ sign can be used to find someone's Twitter handle or other instances of the @ symbol. Also the $sign, the £sign for finding hashtags. So those might be useful if your social engineering effort is trying to identify the social media logins or IDs that the target is using. Another really useful item is the dash. This basically removes or negates that item from your search. So we see in the example trying to find results for Jaguar that relate to the car and not the animal. So or rather the animal and not the car. You could remove references that describe a Jaguar car, hopefully filtering those out so you can see the ones that relate to the animal. Double quotes, this is pretty self-explanatory when you want to search for exactly this text. If you don't use the double quotes, then you may get a bunch of other partial matches, which of course will increase the number of results that you have to filter through in order to find something useful. You can also use the asterisk as a wildcard. Very useful. And then lastly is the double dots, which can be used for defining numeric ranges. So in this case, showing ranges for a price, or it could be documents that have certain numbered ranges. So those are both useful instances. All right, now the main search operators. We start with site. So in this case, you're specifying the exact website that you want to search. In this case, NBC.com is being searched for the word Olympics. It's pretty straightforward. You can also look for links to a certain website. So these are links that would be existing on other websites that contain a link to YouTube.com in this case. The related link related operator also very useful. If you are searching for or investigating a target website, you might want to try some different related searches to see what else comes up. Some of the other tools that were demonstrated for this course also use a similar technique, doing things like looking for your IP neighbor and so on. But related can show you things that you might not have expected to have a relationship to the main site that you're looking for or investigating. So these are potentially useful areas to discover. You can use the logical OR for obvious reasons. You want to search for this or that or that. Then we have the info operator. This will help you find cached versions of web pages, which could be useful. If you find a cached page, you can effectively get the cached page from Google without having to actually touch the target website. So that's an interesting technique to be able to to look at a web page without having your traffic recorded at the target's system. And then you can specify exactly the cache that you want to refer to, looking for a particular website to see if you can retrieve the last cached version of that page. Okay, so that's the basic overview. A couple other things to point out. You can go to the advanced search page, and this will, for those of you who are just beginning to use these operators, maybe you don't feel like typing them all in, you could go to the advanced search page and be able to do everything on a form, such as this. And this makes it really easy because you can see all of your options in front of you, and you don't have to remember the names of all of these search operators. My advice would be to try to learn the search operators, however, since this is much faster, and it's going to be more useful if you want to perhaps run some scripts to automate certain aspects of your research. That's typically what you'd want to do. Okay, so there's a couple of examples that I'd like to share, and these are pretty interesting. Assuming that you have a social engineer target, could be an organization, could be an individual, but let's say it's an organization and you're trying to figure out if there are possibilities for identifying something like a login portal. This is a good choice, right? Because if you can find a login portal for the organization, the social engineer, as part of a pen test, might be able to gain access to that environment, perhaps with stolen credentials, sniffed credentials. They might be able to do it also with social engineering techniques directly. If the engineer can trick the target into revealing their information, or doing something like tricking a help desk person into resetting a password, now the social engineer or the pen tester might be able to gain access to the environment with those credentials. So I'm just going to copy and paste some items into the search field here, saving the trouble of typing these in. But in this case, we're looking for Citrix and Metaframe XP text in the URL. So if I do a search here, this is going to show me several different organizations that are using a Citrix Metaframe setup for their remote access. And what do we get? Over 1,000 results. And of course, this relies on a very particular version of the software that displays this text in the URL. If you were security minded, of course, you could reconfigure that and obfuscate this information somehow so it wouldn't show up in a search like this. But obviously, this is the login portal that these members of these organizations use. Some of them appear to not have any authentication whatsoever. And look at all this great information. If you were trying to get into this site, you know what web server they're using. You could see what version of OpenSSL, what version of PHP. And I'm not going to browse these folders, but they are on the public internet. So there is a very little expectation of privacy when you've got your systems configured in this way. So there's plenty of options here. This is just one login portal example. I'll show you another one. This one looks, perhaps if you were targeting an organization that was related to education, like a university or something of that nature. What we're going to do in this case is specify a site, a .edu or .org site. Notice that we can use the pipe character here as an OR replacement. To those of you who are more familiar with regular expressions and computer coding in general, the pipe is a little bit easier to deal with than typing the word or. It's visually easier as well if you're actually just looking at the code. So we're looking for the site. We're going to add to that. We're going to concatenate. So that's what the plus sign is going to do here. We're also going to look for a URL that has the exact phrase facultylogin.asp or .php. And since that's encased in double quotes, it'll be evaluated as one piece, and then the or in the middle will swap out the alternate extension. So we can see that we found some, looks like a healthcare institute, some other organizations, so some kind of faculty login. And this relies on the fact that this faculty login.asp is a well-known component of certain website configurations, if you will. So in order for these searches to truly be useful, you would have to narrow things down to the target organization, right? For the site, you would have targetcompany.edu or targetcompany.org in order to make this more specific. I'm just showing the broad appeal of using certain searches for information gathering. The steps to take after you've identified an administrative portal, we'll cover some of those in the advanced social engineering course, where we'll do some more demos of penetration of systems, and that will give the practitioner a little bit better idea on how these tools can be utilized more fully. Okay, so let's go back and think about some other things. If you were, for instance, searching for more information about your target, you might have some information that says, okay, this person appears to be using an iPhone. Let's say you've had some physical contact. You might be able to do some searches related to the use of the iPhone, or people that are taking pictures and maybe uploading things to iCloud. There's lots of different angles you could approach this target from. And this particular search, this is looking for an index. So we use the in title. This is the title of the page itself, index of. And then there's text within the page. We're looking for iCloud photos or my photo stream or camera roll. And these three terms here are typical for a lot of devices that you hook to your computer. When you automatically load photos from your phone or load photos from a camera onto your laptop, for instance, you might get one of these text items created as the default folder. So if we run this query, this does exactly what you would expect it to do. We can see that there are pictures that people have downloaded, or rather uploaded to some website. And of course, if you were looking for images that would be useful for the social engineering audit, you would have to go through and individually investigate these photos to see if any of them contain anything useful. It could be photos of people that are related to the target, people they work with, locations where certain activities are happening, maybe pictures taken at work. All these could be useful for the social engineering audit. There's another example of a search that will help you find photos. This is one that looks for DCIM. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that is something that gets associated with Canon cameras, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it's Sony. It's one of the two. It could be multiple manufacturers that do this, but same idea. you're looking at people that have probably dumped their phone pictures to a server that they interact with, but they might not be thinking about the fact that that information is reachable from the public internet. So these are excellent reasons to be very careful about how you treat your personal information. Because if you're putting it on a server thinking, oh, I'm just going to keep it there and then I can go get it later, you might not realize that that content is searchable and crawlable, and therefore Google can find it. So these are some interesting ideas. As you can see, there's quite a few choices. This kind of overlaps a little bit with some of the search capabilities that we considered for Shodan. I did a Shodan demo, and it has some very useful searches. You can do a lot of the same things with Google. All right, so a little bit more information. It could be that you want to find some vulnerability information about a website, or maybe try to see if you can get the site to display some debugging information. There's lots of sources of this. You may be wondering where I'm getting all of these ideas, and I'll cover that in just a moment. But in this case, we've got a messaging board, crazy www board, and there's a file called crazywwboard.cgi, so we're looking for that in the URL, this file here, and then text in that page asking about detailed debugging information. So these are other websites that are using this same software. And okay, we've got a message about a database not being licensed. Okay, that one's a dead end. Looks like a few of them are like that, but you get the idea. We're still digging deeper into the environment that the target company is operating within, to see if there's more information about their systems, about their applications, about their people. Some of you may have heard of the Retina scanner. This is a vulnerability scanner that's very useful. So in this case, we're going to look for a title of a page called Retina Report, and then confidential information as being in the title as well. So let's see what we can find here. Looks like we got a good match at the top. So this is an actual audit report done back in 2013. And this shows quite a bit of information about the network. IP ranges, number of hosts that were scanned, the name of the file that we're actually looking at. And then it gives us details about vulnerabilities, even with IP addresses. So this is typical that you want to produce this kind of information if you're doing security scanning within your environment. What's not typical, however, is allowing this information to be visible on the public internet. So we've even got names of the vulnerabilities and so on. This is, if you were targeting an organization, you were able to find this kind of information, you can see how tremendously useful that would be. Well, let me get off that page. Okay. All right, so some of the other things to think about for Google hacking, if you really want to dig in and learn more and figure out how to do some interesting things, like I mentioned, being able to get the code from a web page through Google instead of it actually hitting the website directly. That's certainly a very important objective if you were trying to remain stealthy. But the exploit database, exploit-db.com, this is where you want to spend some time. I'm just waiting for the page to load. As we can see, they've got 34,000 exploits already documented. And these go back quite a long ways, back to like the late 80s and early 90s even. And so if we scroll down, we can see that there's some exploits by category: remote access, web applications, privilege escalations, denial of service, shellcode, and they also have a nice selection of security papers. So these could be really useful to build up your knowledge. But in particular, what I wanted to look at, I mean, there are the different sections for exploits, but the Google Hacking Database is where I found all the examples that I've shown you today. These are ranked by date. We can see we've got some that have just come out, and we can search by categories. So you might be looking for files that contain usernames. You could also put a search item here, or just hit search by itself and you'll get just the category. And as we can see, there are quite a few examples. Root Etsy password, in text for home, if you select one of the items, it basically gives you the text in a nice large format, so you can copy and paste it. There's also this item, this term called Google Dork, and what this means is it's a pre-formatted search string like you see here, and it's basically trying to identify people that have or systems that have too much information being available to the public internet. I believe Johnny Long was the one who created that. If you do too many searches, Google may force you to authenticate yourself to make sure that you're not a bot. So you might have to do some reCAPTCHA information here. Oh, that one actually didn't work. After all that trouble. But you get the idea. So there are lots of choices just for files that contain usernames. Other things that are interesting, files containing juicy info, files with passwords, sensitive shopping online info. Again, if you have a lot of details about your target, the websites they use, the website that they might have as part of their organization, these different areas of searching can produce little bits of data that you can aggregate together to help achieve the pen testing goal, the social engineering pen testing goal. But these are referencing well-known shopping cart software. This one's kind of interesting. You can search UPS.com trying to find an exact match for a package tracking number. The idea here would be that you might be able to find that information, get it displayed, and then craft an email with different information that gets sent to the target for whatever purposes. It could be that the package needs to be intercepted, or some other type of activity related to the pen test. But it's pretty useful. And I recommend spending time reading some of the papers on this website as well. As you can see, there's 1,100 papers, and this gives you good information that you can use to further your knowledge and grow your skill set. And so people just put this work together for the benefit of the pen testing community. Obviously, it's for the benefit of the hacking community as well, but we're talking about white hat activities here. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to Google hacking. I know it's a lot of information to take in all at once, but I think if you start to practice these techniques, get on a website such as ExploitDB. There's plenty of other sites that you can find similar information, but this happens to be my favorite. And you'll be well on your way to gathering information for your next social engineering audit. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time. Thank you.